All right. Welcome back, everybody. We are back for season 1, episode 2 of Everything to Gain. My man, Mark Angelos. What's happening? How are you?
What's up, folks?
Again, my name is Dan U. You can find me at Dan OU, right there at Dan OU on most social. And Mark Angelos. Today, hey, it's Friday. It's Friday. Happy Friday.
Coming up on St. Patty's Day.
Coming up to St. Patty's Day, and today is March 15th.
Uh-huh.
Beware the Ides of March.
Very Shakespearean of you, my friend.
It is. Been around for kind of a long time, hasn't
it? The original text was "Et tu, Dano." Am I correct on that?
Et tu, Dano. That's right, Dano.
Yeah, I believe you were the most Irish Asian American that we knew. Dan OU. Am I allowed to say that? Is that an HR issue?
It will be. It will be if we were a real organization, but we're not. So, hey, dude. Again, our show, soft skills in an AI world, right? And love this topic. Love to talk about where we came from to where we are now.
Yeah. So, quick beef with the whole industry of everyone's so hot to try with the tech. The AI thing, folks are kind of forgetting about the people element. And Dan and I have talked about this repeatedly. We worry that at the end of the day, how you differentiate yourself is not going to be through the technology.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, there's a skill set here that people need to not overlook.
Yeah, I mean, but it's hard culturally, I think, for people to get over, right? So, growing up,
you mean business culture, right? Because I know what you mean. You're talking like the big companies,
big companies, but even small companies, for a very long time. But also as we were kids growing up too, right? So, success was defined by, getting good grades,
having it all together.
Yeah, right, and being that person, that just gets a 4.0, and in my world, a B was an Asian F. So
I wouldn't have made a very good Asian, I think.
Neither was I, but hey,
that's another issue. All right, so AI world soft skills. What do we need to know?
Well, I mean, we were praised, in the old days, right? Hard skills, and IQ and being smart, that was the guaranteed way to win, right? And if you were the smart kid, you did great. Yeah, and I mean, I tried to be the smart kid.
So I'll tell you,
but
my perspective. I went to a fantastic engineering university, Lehigh. I was not an engineer; I was a history major. Don't ask. I worked in finance on the algorithmic quant AI side of things.
Wow.
I was a sales guy, so I've lived in the technical IQ world as an EQ guy, and I can tell you there's a place for both. But the magic is shifting right now. You kind of need a strong EQ in a world where the AI can machine out a lot of the old stuff that used to happen behind the scenes in the technology space.
Well, you've talked about this a ton, right? It's in an AI world, EQ
comes to the fore.
Is the only differentiator, right? Because we have everything in our pockets, right? We have the whole history of human knowledge, right? Everything here and now we're going to have ChatGPT, so it's going to be not just self-serve, but it's actually going to be served up to us. In many ways, ads are already served up to us, right? And, so
I sent you this link and they put ChatGPT now into that actual robot. It's
that's right.
Freaky.
That was crazy.
So here's the thing, though. What do people do? How can you advance? How do you learn the soft skills if you don't not great with them? Or if you have them, how do you get comfortable exhibiting them, especially in a business culture where you're not supposed to look foolish?
Well, I think it starts with self-awareness, right? Self-awareness, and from self-awareness comes self-empathy, right? So if you have a negative reaction to something, right? If I have a knee-jerk reaction like, oh, that sucks, where does that come from, right? And being self-aware, and then, oh, okay, well, maybe I'm actually reacting to something that happened to me earlier today, or maybe way in my past, and having that awareness creates empathy for yourself, because then you're like, oh yeah, maybe I should just chill,
right?
Just relax.
So What are some steps that people could take if you want to develop your EQ skills? What would be some simple things that folks can take to the bank and just be like, well, start practicing this type of stuff?
Number one, be yourself, right?
Not as easy as it sounds, by the way,
That's
especially
true.
in public.
That's right. But being authentic, right? Being authentic is the anti-AI, right? Because you'll never be as smart as an AI, never,
No,
right? But an AI will never be as smart as you.
right.
I should say an AI will never be as human as you, right? Or as authentic as you, because you're just you. So, and my name is Dan Yu, but but you know,
So
that dynamic, it just has to has to come to the forefront even more so these days, I think.
one of the points that we've talked about, Dan, is this transition, this view of data, the difference between data and information and insight. And I think that the EQ piece is being able to help folks understand what data and information, turning that into insight. That's the part where you overlay your experience, your knowledge, your insight, your perspective, and as simple as an opinion.
Yeah,
You
just have
remember,
an opinion on something, right?
you remember on Wall Street when there was like the big hedge fund guy or girl wanted to know what you thought the stock was going to do, and you're just some schmuck trader, you have no idea, but like they want your opinion, whether you're right or wrong, they want to hear it.
Yeah, yeah, and if it jives with them, maybe you get a couple brownie points, but really, like they just want to hear your opinion. That's
They
it.
don't want to hear you say, "I don't know what the stock's going to do." Then they feel like they gave it to the wrong person.
I said I don't know a lot, so that's just me because, but yeah, I mean, there's so much that we can do to create those skills,
What
right? Or work on those skills. And the one thing that I always go back to is you got to be out there, right? And you actually said the what was that phrase called?
Building in public?
Building in public, right? So building in public is the perfect example of how how you can put yourself out there, right?
Serious question. Don't answer this. How many folks from our old industry, finance, would do something like this? And so the answer is you put yourself out there. You do things that might make you look stupid or uncomfortable. It doesn't matter because people know when you're authentic, and that is an EQ thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's just
So you got to have a lack of ego for this.
trying to be authentic is it shouldn't be hard. It shouldn't be hard, right? Going to a job interview, meeting someone, it shouldn't be hard.
Yep. Another one is, I mean, there's a lot of soft skills out there. Creativity is a soft skill. Reading the room is a soft skill. Understanding how you're impacting someone else's emotion, which if you're in sales, that's a soft skill. Those are things that you can work on, but just be aware that they exist, that this is a skill now, the way knowing calculus was a skill.
So, CEO of Citigroup, I think, said a few months ago that they're actually interviewing for EQ as a skill.
As a skill.
As a skill.
Let me contextualize that. As a skill means there would be a major at college in a university for that. You would major in EQ. That doesn't exist yet, but we're getting to a world where that's what they're looking to hire now.
So our college is doing this. I mean, I'd be interested to hear if
not for me, you wouldn't.
What's that?
Not from me, you wouldn't. Don't get me started.
But then, okay, if college is going to do it, then why not? There you go, Rebel Alliance there. But then, if college is going to do it, then why can't high schools do it? Right?
Yeah.
So high schools.
We did do it on your own. Like people should be taking responsibility. It's like getting fitness.
Right. So it's like networking, as we have said many times. Networking is like a muscle, right? You gotta use the muscles to continue to improve on it.
Here's another one. Dealing with people. Like this is just coming to me now. When you're not telling someone something, this is a sales skill. You lead them there with questions. You know this, Dan. You've done this better than anybody. When you already know the answer to something and you're dealing with another person, you ask them questions that get them there rather than tell them they're wrong.
Yeah, you can always start out like if you're at a conference or you're at a cocktail party or a dinner party, like, hey, what are you drinking over there? Hey, what are you, how did you find the meal? How did you find the speaker? right?
Yeah.
I've done that, right? That's easy. That's easy. Hey, what'd you think of the speech that the person gave? And that's the icebreaker right there.
People love to share their opinion, give their thoughts on things.
Yeah, they love to hear themselves talk too. Kind of like you and this guy right here, me. So,
Here's a tip I told my kids. If you're not sure what to talk to someone about, someone new, you're in a room, strangers, you're networking, whatever. There's one topic that everyone loves to talk about. It's the same topic, no matter what it is. This one topic, regardless, you roll it out, they will love you. So my kids went through all this stuff. They're like, the Avengers. They were like going down it's themselves. And I found out years later, this is Dale Carnegie, had no idea at the time, but like everyone wants to talk about themselves. Tell me about what you're working on. This is your big thing, Dan. What are you working on? How can I help you with it? You always say that.
Yeah. What are you faced with today? Right. What are you focused on today? Right. Super easy. And I've always found that question brings out this almost like visceral response sometimes. Like, oh, you're not going to believe the thing I got to do this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Or you're not going to believe what the company's been going through this week. Or you get that visceral reaction, and it's authentic, it's honest, and then the person's engaged, right, with you as in Q&A, which is awesome. So,
which is another piece there, body language. How do you know when they're not engaged? When you're talking,
if they're like, yeah, right. Hey,
great tip I read once is you watch their feet. Ironically, they will point their feet to the door when they've had enough of you.
Point their feet to the door. Wow, that's
right. Forget about the nitty gritty, but just understand that body language is a key tell. There's matching and pacing and all this other stuff. This Tony Robbins speak, but just know that there is an element of how they are holding their body is indicative of things. They're leaning in. They want to know more information on what you're talking about. They're looking at their watch. Right.
Hey, so this is awesome, by the way, and I want to be helpful to the audience here. So we talked about networking last week. We talked about networking, right, and the things you can do to network. One of the things I love about networking is this idea that if you're only networking with the people you know, right, you'll only learn so much more, right? You won't learn like a ton, but if you meet somebody new, you will learn infinitely more than someone you already know.
Right.
But to get to that point of where you're having this authentic conversation, you got to go through the Q&A, right? You go through those questions and asking them, and then creating that dynamic, right? That conversation.
So we'll keep going. Tell me more.
Well, I think when you're asking the questions, you have to listen actively, right? So that's empathy right there, right? So putting yourself in their shoes, right? So you can have your own perception of something, but until you actually get perspective, so the other person's opinion or the other person's situation.
I'm making a list as you're going. I'm going to point out something I just did, and it was unintentional, but the whole "tell me more, keep going." That's a great one for people to remember.
Yeah, that was unintentional, but you did it.
But you answered, by the way, you followed with active listening. Killer. Like, absolutely. What is the difference between active listening and listening? I found that most people don't know this.
What?
Active listening is douchebag. Listening is, I heard what you said. Active listening means you can repeat back to them in their words what they just said to you. Yeah. And the reason you want to do active listening is they now feel validated. I feel like you get me.
Yeah, so comedians do this really well, right? Especially the ones that do crowd work, the ones that are interacting with the people in the front row, or right? It's a trick for them so that they can process what they've just heard. So if somebody says something to them, they'll repeat it back to them, maybe in a slightly different inflection or tone, right? And like if you watch comedians, on social media or TikTok, whatever, and you look at the ones you look at the videos with the comedians that are doing crowd work, they will repeat back to what the person just said, which gives them a few seconds to process and then have the comeback right after that, which I think is just it's all EQ, right? It's all putting yourself into that person's shoes.
This is where the best people that are good at sales could be improv folks, right? And it's because they could read the other person or read the room. It doesn't matter. Most people want to know what's the tactics and strategies of selling. Like, what do I say? There's a call script. Like, we all know about this.
Yeah.
That's not the same thing. And that's why a lot of those folks have difficulty in real life.
I want to give a shout out to a buddy of mine, Mike Bonifer. He's a guy that he's a Notre Dame guy like me, but a few years older. He wrote a book called Game Changers. Shout out Mike Bonifer. And it's all about using improv in the business world.
Bingo.
And great book. I still have it on my shelf right over here. I mean, just such an awesome book.
So I remember watching, I think it was Gary Vaynerchuk, the first time doing real lives with him, watching him do it. 50% of it was just him taking questions from the crowd. Right. Totally unscripted and I was like, this guy's got it. Like, that's right. Which is different from the 40-minute TED Talk we all watch where it sounds really smart, but then they leave the stage.
Yeah.
So that ability to be able to engage with people back and forth, play off of them, it's a skill you can build, and it honestly is going to become important in an AI world. And the AI folks aren't going to tell you this. Like, it's great how many GPTs it can crunch, but the reality is, one that's doing that thing on the front end of this, you need someone like Dan.
I mean, how many GPTs do we really want out there, right? I mean, they're building them right in the ChatGPT store, right? So they're gonna make custom for everything, which is cool. But is it really going to solve, the EQ question?
I think the human element becomes more important in an AI world, and that means lives like this, like actually live, not recorded live. It means in-person events. I would never hire someone unless I could go have dinner with them right now, especially in AI. You can be whatever you want to be on a screen.
Yeah, and actually, you've seen the TikToks, right, where the person actually has the ChatGPT bot that can hear what the interviewer is asking for, and then it answers them. And so the interviewee says, "That's a really good question.
Buying the time.
Let me think about that for a second." Right? It's kind of like a comedian, right? Almost. But then they come up with with the answer based on what ChatGPT says, which is
right.
bananas.
So I think that people need to figure out a regimen of soft skill building. Soft skills is not just like a cool thing. And certain people have it and certain people don't. Like, there's this belief that you're born this way. Dan, you're probably 100 times a salesperson now you ever were when you got on Wall Street.
Maybe.
Well, you were born with a microphone in your hand and a cocktail in the other, so forget about you. But
wait, what?
My point is, practice makes perfect, but it's like the gym. Unless you're going to build it into your schedule.
Yeah.
And by the way, we're busy. Everyone's running a business. You have a big job, whatever you're doing. How are you fitting that in? Most people are not. And it matters if you want to make money tomorrow. Like,
yeah, I mean, you have to work at it, right? And I think one of the failings though is that people want some kind of a yield, right? They're going to this networking event or they're meeting somebody and they're spending 5 to 10 minutes with them and they expect some kind of a yield. Like, what do I get out of this?
Yep.
And it's a potential relationship, right? Potential, and the key word is potential, right? And because you have no idea, and everyone forgets to put timing into the equation. So
here's another point you just raised, and we're just going to riff off each other: relationship management. Now, I don't mean like in terms of the business context, CRM. Your personal friendships. How often do you touch base with folks? How often do you check in on how they're doing? How can you help them? Dan, your favorite thing, you've preached this for years. Go back into your contacts on your phone, go to the last 3 at the bottom, and call them.
Yeah, call them, right? What's the other one? That's the voice text. Best thing ever. Like, if I get a voice text, I am so listening to that. So I love those.
I mean, I'm up in Jersey, as you know, and my brother-in-law is down in Florida. He's a retired firefighter, and he always busts my horns about the snow up here. So when it snowed a couple of weeks back, you may know this, Dan. It was bad snows here out in Jersey, and it's 4:30 in the morning. I'm shoveling, feet of snow out of my driveway. I take a 10-second video, and I was like, "Hey, S-Bag, I just want you to know I hate you right now." Send it to him. That's way more powerful than me texting him and saying, "Hey, thinking of you. Hope you're well."
Right.
So taking that little extra time it matters now.
Right. Personalizing the message, right? Personalizing the message, sharing the perfect, video or voice text, or maybe even it's a reel on Instagram, but, it shows that you remember your relationship with that person.
Right.
And what you mean to them and what they mean to you, really.
I've got a good little list here.
So we got stuff. We got stuff.
I'm gonna recap this when we're done, Dan, because I've been taking notes while you're talking. By the way, for those who don't know, we don't make this. We make this up as we go. Jen and I have a general idea what we want to talk about, and we just get on and go.
Yeah, I mean, it's stuff that we've preached for quite a while, but we're just trying to help those of you out there. Hopefully, this can give you one idea, right? One idea on how to approach your own growth, and we're all that's the name of the show, right? Everything in a game, and hopefully you come here and you get a little bit of something, right? In the half hour that we
I want to press on that, Dan. We're not here to sell anything. Like, I think I'm sure people in the back of their mind are like, what are you two doing? There's a lot of folks who need to know things that honestly we've lived a life and we're trying to help other people. This is just like, if it can help shorten the journey for someone else. You always like to say, Dan, we lift as we climb. That's all this is. We're trying to help people who don't quite have their arms around what's happening in the world. Business is happening faster. AI is out of control, advancing. So these are some of the tidbits and principles that we believe will help you be successful.
The anti-AI.
I'm not anti-AI at all, by the way.
Oh yeah, well, right.
But there's another piece now that comes with that you didn't have to worry about previous.
Yeah, and ultimately, the contrarians, right, will always be. I mean, since for as long as human history, the contrarians were the ones that end up being innovators, right?
Yep.
And if you can be more human and more thoughtful, more empathetic, bring more EQ in an AI world, I think you win. So
yeah, I've got a top 10 list here that I want to read back when you're ready.
We got recaps. Are you trying to make this like a real show?
I'm trying to make, well, you and I ramble. We'll just keep going. For anyone who knows Dan and I, when one of us starts a story,
forget it.
Very good. It's about a 15, 20-minute back and forth, hour-long story per person after that.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's why we've capped this show to a half an hour to prevent exactly that.
Which we banded about some titles in the background when we were thinking about how to name this thing, and Off the Rails was one of the ones we were thinking about.
So totally off the rails. I mean, that's really what the format of the show is, right? We're slightly off the rails. We could go totally off the rails, but
this is the top 10 that we just came up with over the last 15 minutes that we think will help people develop your soft skills. Number 1, be authentic. Number 2, build in public. Number 3, ask questions rather than telling them. Number 4, talk about them rather than yourself. Number 5, encourage conversation with tell me more. Keep going. Number 6, actively listen. Repeat back to them. Number 7, practice your improv. Number 8, manage your existing friendships, relationships actively. Number 9, personalize your outreach rather than generic. And number 10, I can't read my writing here. Oh, lean into your uniqueness. Like what makes you you is what's going to stand you out in a world where everyone can do this thing by pressing a red button.
Yeah. And I think if you're going to bring that authenticity to interactions and your relationships and friendships, potential business partners, right? Prospects, clients, they will, like Maya Angelou, right, said, they won't remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel, right?
Yeah.
So,
that's right. And then she said, pass the whiskey, right? It was at one of your karaoke's. Was that a different story? Anyway.
Here's another episode. So
we appreciate you guys tuning in. You got a bunch of people that if you guys want to ask questions, feel free. We will take it live. We will actually respond in the chats. We'll take it onto the air, whatever you guys want. If there's questions around how to build soft skills, empathy, EQ, Dan and I are big believers that this is going to become more of an issue and that many people are just not being taught it.
Yeah, and hopefully there is more skills building around it, right? I mean, that's I think that's just the most necessary skill going forward.
I don't think there's going to be a formal skill building unless we take the bull by the horns. Like you like people, Dan, and so do I. So that makes it easier. But for someone who doesn't, maybe they're not a people person. You're going to have to get out of what?
Okay, to not be a people person, then schedule your interactions, right? So that you have, so introvert energy, right? So you have maybe a couple hours a day where you say, okay, I'm gonna just do this, and then you know that that you can prepare for it mentally and schedule.
An easy way to do that, by the way, the starter kit, if you're really not good at engaging with people and you don't like it and you don't want to do it, engagement comments and DMs on social.
Yeah,
It's like a, it's a crutch, but I'm not actually live with you. Maybe I just drop a comment in your content. That's
right.
fine.
Right, the asynchronous interaction still counts, but bring your authenticity to it. So.
Right. Right. And if you're going to take that approach, by the way, don't do the old great comment, good point. You want to be like, oh, I liked what you said, and here's my thought, and share it.
Bring your opinion.
Yeah.
Right. And actually, that's the one thing on LinkedIn that I find kind of funny, because when people says, I'm delighted to announce that I've taken a new job somewhere, right? Yeah, hey, you know what? It's a thing, right? That,
I
like,
know. I'm teasing. I've done it.
But the least thing you can do is hit that button that says congratulations on your new job. That's the least you can do.
So you know what I always do, Dan, because you and I have worked, no one's been fired more than I have, and you've worked a lot of jobs as well. So we've worked with a lot of people who have new jobs repeatedly. And when I see one of those, and I see them almost every week, I always leave a comment to the point of, hey, having worked with you, and compliment them. And if they're a total a-hole and you're not going to leave a comment, then don't. But if you're going to take the time to make a comment, especially if it's someone you haven't spoken with or worked with in years, make it worth their while.
Yeah,
you're giving.
Absolutely. Right. It costs you nothing. And it takes 1 second to hit the button less, right? And it takes maybe 5 seconds to type out a quick, hey, it was great, great working with you back in the day. I'm sure you're going to kick some butt at this new job. Boom, done.
Make social great again. Mizgma. Sorry.
So anyway, I think we're coming up on our time.
Thank the good Lord, these people are saying.
Yeah, enough of these two idiots, right? That's why I call everything two game, because you have two idiots, me and Mark.
Honestly, though, we appreciate you guys tuning in. There's a bunch of people who are there right now on LinkedIn. Thank you. Anything you guys want to leave comments on, we'll respond. If you guys want to hear specialized episodes, things you want us to tackle, the purpose of this podcast is to help people transition. Tackling success in life will require a lot more changes than it used to. My dad worked for the same company for 30 years, John Hancock Life Insurance. That's never going to happen for my kids, nor for you probably. Yeah. So it behooves you to learn, how do I make these changes? And the world's going to demand it from us.
Right. And it might be work. It might be personal. It could be something, learning new skills, but that's what we're here for.
Right.
Well, hey man, it's good seeing you. Good seeing you.
Mine.
Dan OU right here. Right. Dan OU. That's Mark Angelos. That's him over there.
That's me. Yeah. So if you guys want, hit us up in the socials. We'll respond. We'll be back next week. I guess, is this Friday's our day, Dan? Is that what's happening here?
Could be. But by the way, Mike McLean. Hey, what's up, Mike? Great sales pitch, Mark. Nobody's ever been fired as much as I have. Inspiring. Really?
Dude, I'm calling it like it is. But here's the thing. I'll tell you about my firings. And God, this is a true story for those who don't know. I've been on Wall Street for 30 years. I was canned every few years at all these major companies. Morgan Stanley, Barclays, UBS. At the end of the day, the client base loved me. So I always got picked up against somewhere else. And that's the lesson for you. It's not about me. If you are a giver, if you help people out, it doesn't matter what happens in your career. It doesn't matter if you switch it up. People will support you. Dan and I are supporting each other in completely different industries and career paths than we started out in. And the same will be with you. This is the new reality.
Yeah, give, and give some more. Never count points, right?
And don't hide, Mike. I agree with you. It's fun. It's meant to be funny, but yeah, I mean, at the time I was upset, but now it's like, is what it is.
Yeah, it's all good. We make it, right? And you've made the pivots, right? You continue to make the pivots. I continue to make the pivots, and it's having that. I mean, from a just a mindset, right? It's you got to be positive about things, right? And yes, it can be devastating to be fired. Yeah, we know, right? And then okay, what's next?
Dude, this is a whole nother show. I could tell.
Oh, you're right. It's another show.
I could go grab a beer because then they're funny.
All right, dude. Good seeing you again.
You
Have
as
a good
well.
weekend. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Same. Dan, I owe you.
You're never
Thanks
gonna
for listening, everybody. We appreciate it.
every year it's gonna be that, right? Is it gonna be? Come on.
Yeah, right. We're back next week live LinkedIn.
Yep. All right. Have a great day, guys.
Peace.